in, everybody. It is late afternoon here on a Thursday bonus edition Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Torres. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a great day. We very rarely go live here late in the afternoons, but we just got late breaking news that Caleb Wilson, arguably my favorite player to watch in college basketball this year. I'll get into all of that in half a second. It sounds as though Caleb Wilson is out for the very foreseeable future with a hand injury. So everybody come on in. We got a lot to discuss. Caleb Wilson, the North Carolina star, out with a hand injury. By the way, everybody let me know real quick. Do I sound okay? Do I look okay? I actually just got out of a workout here just moments ago. Saw the news, decided that we would react to it really quick. So just drop a comment in the chat. Do I sound good? Producer Matt is actually off for the afternoon, gave him the afternoon off. And so I am riding solo. I obviously did not expect for this to happen. So let me know, do I sound good? Do I look, I don't know if you want to tell me how I look, but do I look at least okay? Do I sound okay? Whatever. Let's go ahead and get into this news. Caleb Wilson is out for the very foreseeable future. Just somebody give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. But here's the news. So listen, was just working out half a second ago. I got a news actually from our Torres on the Hogs intern. It was a tweet from John Rothstein that Caleb Wilson, the North Carolina star, is out with a hand injury. He will be reevaluated, but we don't know the situation. So let's go ahead and get into it. By the way, if I'm a little sweaty, if I'm a little damp, that is exactly why it's not a normal, show that has been prepped, by the way. I should mention, we're just going off the top of our head here. No news, no notes, no whatever. So let's just dive into it. So Caleb Wilson, listen, I've said it pretty regularly. He's my favorite player in college basketball this year. I went to UConn. There's 7 different fan bases that claim that I'm a fan of somebody else. But Caleb Wilson, to me, is everything right in college basketball. Okay, and I promise not to make this a Darren Peterson segment, but as we deal with all this Darren Peterson nonsense at Kansas, Caleb Wilson shows up to play every single day and leaves it all on the floor every single time that he steps on the floor. Okay, I always say, all these freshmen come in, a lot of them with a lot of hype, a lot of them with a lot of this, a lot of them with a lot of that. And I always say, they all say, oh, I got that dog in me. Oh, I'm built different. Most of them aren't. Most of them are a little bit soft. Most of them, when push comes to shove, when a 23-year-old grown man is barking in their face, they cower. And by the way, I would have when I was 18 years old. Caleb Wilson, though, is the exact opposite. And I've noticed this since the preseason, okay? I remember we broke up there for half a second. I remember watching the North Carolina BYU exhibition game in late October, early November. And it was supposed to be all about AJ DeBonsa and this incredible team at BYU. The game was in Salt Lake City. And I came away like, oh, Caleb Wilson wants this smoke now. He played as well as AJ DeBonsa, maybe better. We're not here to argue about that right now. A few weeks later, he has the showcase game, the opening week of the season. North Carolina beats Kansas. And I sat there right then and there and said, wait a second now. If we're talking about Darren Peterson going number 1 overall, if we're talking about Cam Boozer going number 1 overall, if we're talking about AJ DeBonsa, we have to talk about Caleb Wilson in that same breath. Okay, so he's been unbelievable. If it weren't for Cam Boozer, I would argue he would be ACC Player of the Year, forget Freshman of the Year. And I think there was an argument, right? I mean, they North Carolina just beat Duke a few days ago. I think there's an argument like they beat Duke a second time in a few weeks. How can you not sit there and say that Caleb Wilson is maybe the ACC Player of the Year? Unfortunately, we will never know because, again, about a half an hour ago, I got the tweet, I got the notification. Caleb Wilson, the star North Carolina forward, is out with a hand injury. Okay, so right now, again, I'm going live here. I'm sort of speculating, but what I can say is a little bit of it, what feels like informed speculation. For anyone who watched the North Carolina-Miami game on Tuesday night, okay, it was North Carolina played at Miami. It was coming off the Duke game, and Caleb Wilson, in the middle of the game, went into left the game with what appeared to be an injury, then left, then went to the locker room, and came back and finished the game, okay? And so you knew something was up in that moment at that time. And you said, first of all, it shows what kind of dog he is that he played through the injury. But now I'm just reading straight from the ESPN report. This is from North Carolina specifically. X-rays were taken during the Miami game. They came out negative. He returned to play later in the second half versus the Hurricanes. Additional imaging done in Chapel Hill revealed the fracture. The evaluation process is ongoing. The timetable for his return will come soon. That tells you all you need to know about the kid. He goes in for imaging. The X-rays come back negative. He goes back out on the court, okay? And so the fact that he did that, the fact that he went back out on the court and played with what we now know was a fractured hand shows you that, again, all these kids say that they're built different. This kid really is built different. So couple things here. One, as far as a timetable, I don't know. Okay. Even in that press release and that statement from North Carolina, it sounds like a situation where they're going to evaluate. I saw something on social media. I don't know what's true and what's not. Surprise, surprise. I'm a podcaster, not a doctor. I've seen like 6 to 8 weeks. Obviously, that would essentially put him out for the rest of the season. If it's on the longer end, if it's on the shorter end, then we're talking about maybe he's back for the start of the NCAA tournament. I mean, the problem is, of course, it is February 12th as I'm recording here. You do some quick math. February 12th, 4 weeks turns into March 12th. Selection Sunday, I know, is March 15th. And so you're talking about even on the short end, it doesn't look good. Now, my only thought going forward is a couple things. Is one, if there's any way this kid can play, he is going to find a way to do it. Again, these kids all say they're built different. Caleb Wilson really is freaking built different. And I would say is that it is worth noting it is the non-shooting hand. Now, I will say this isn't like football. Like in football, I think it was Baker Mayfield did something to his non-throwing hand. You can still grip a football. Basketball, you obviously, listen, it's been a while since I played at any sort of high level, but you still need to be able to dribble. You still need to be able to pass. You still need to be able to shoot with the alternate hand. You still need to be able to go up for rebounds. And so, can you play if it's not your shooting hand? We will leave that up to Caleb Wilson because if there is a way, he is going to find it. But on the one hand, it's not the shooting hand. That kind of feels like a blessing in disguise. The negative is this is basketball. You need to be able to dribble. You need to be able to rebound. You need to be able to do it with all with one hand. So that is kind of my takeaway at this moment. It sounds like it's going to be certainly the rest of the regular season, probably no ACC tournament, and then we'll see for the NCAA tournament. But listen, this is crippling for Hubert Davis. This is crippling for North Carolina. Listen, I've been critical at times of Hubert Davis, but I think he's done an excellent job this year. I think he did an excellent job in the spring putting this roster together. I think he did a good job coaching this roster, which I believe 17-5. Is that correct? Going into this weekend, you take out essentially one bad game, one bad weekend, again, 19-5, excuse me. You take out essentially one bad weekend on the West Coast. You're talking about a team that's in position to win the ACC regular season title. Who knows? And so I just bring it up because now that doesn't feel like it's going to happen. The good news is you have built up a resume that I think puts you in good position going forward. You have a win over Duke. You have a win over a Kansas team that looks better and better and better as time goes on. You have a win against a good Virginia team on the road. You have a couple other nice wins in the out of conference at Kentucky continues to get better. You have the situation where they played the Ohio State on a neutral court. That one looks better over time. And so I just bring it up because the resume is not going to keep them out of the NCAA tournament. I think the big question is, what is the ceiling without him? I mean, listen, I just said Hubert Davis did a good job putting together a roster in the offseason, and I will not take that away. But everything they put together was built off of having Caleb Wilson available. And so the fact that he is not now available, to me, it just shows that it's just going to be an uphill battle for the Carolina Tar Heels. I mean, I think the good news, if there is any good news, beyond the fact that it's just the idea of beyond the fact that, that he could conceivably come back this year, I think the other good piece of news is that front court is actually a place where you have a little bit of depth. Jaron Stevenson, who we know played at Alabama over the last few years, he's kind of the sixth man. He's been essentially the odd man out. Jaron Stevenson, bro, If you wanted an opportunity, this is it. This is your opportunity to shine. This is your opportunity to step up because, by the way, best game Jaren Stevenson ever played was in the Sweet 16 against North Carolina at Alabama. Well, now you're from Chapel Hill. You have a chance to be a Carolina star and a Carolina legend because your presence has never been more needed than it is now. Obviously, it helps having Seth Trimble back. I mentioned the front court depth. I know these guys aren't necessarily front court players, but Luka Bogovic, bro, you got to step up. Highly touted European player, came over, played well for the most part the last couple weeks, did not play well against Miami on Tuesday night. Dude, you got to step up. I think Jonathan Powell, another wing. I think this probably means more playing time for him. He's like 6'6", 6'7". He's not the four-man that Caleb Wilson is. But again, I think it means more playing time for Jaren Stevenson, which pushes around the rest of the lineup. So one thing I'll say with Hubert Davis is the talent is there to, at minimum, beat the teams you're supposed to, right? Are you going to go to Duke in a few weeks and win? I don't know. But are you in a situation where I think you can have success against that middle and bottom tier of the ACC? I do. And Henry Visar has got to step up. I mean, I think that one goes without saying, but this is just devastating, man. And I think when I look at this, I think if there's two silver linings, one, front court depth is a little bit of what you have. If there's anything that you have, it's front court depth. And then two, on top of it, I think equally as important. Listen, a 6 to 8 week time frame essentially puts you in the NCAA tournament. Could he, in theory, be back for the start of the tournament? That I don't know. Certainly something that we are going to monitor here over the next couple weeks. Really quickly, before we get out of here, just a couple questions in the chat. Somebody says his family would be stupid to even let him play anymore. Listen, we've done this conversation with Darren Peterson. I'm not going to argue. If he said enough is enough, whatever. He just doesn't strike me as that kind of player. He strikes me as the kind of guy that's going to play with what he could have his shoulder in a sling and he would try to come back. So will it happen? I don't know. I would say if there was an over under on him coming back, I don't think he plays again at minimum until the NCAA tournament. And then I really think it comes down to where are you at in the NCAA tournament? If it falls apart and you're a 9 seed and you're playing Michigan, are you going to rush back with a cast on your hand? I don't know. Like I said, we've done we've done the whole thing with Darren Peterson. We don't need to do it here. To KD's point, he basically said, I think that the family would be crazy to even consider letting him come back. I'll let the family decide that. He ain't going to play again before the end of the ACC tournament. He ain't going to. We're a month away from Selection Sunday, quite literally 31 days away, if my math is correct. I don't think we see him in a Carolina uniform on the court before the opening round of the NCAA tournament, and I think even that's probably being a little bit optimistic. Swish says the same thing. They won't risk his NBA draft spot by playing him until he's 1,000%. Listen, I don't know if I agree with that because, I think, listen, and Swish, this is not a criticism. I think we get so caught up in the NBA draft conversation. We have guys come back all the time if they're healthy when the championship is on the line. Boogie Flan did it last year at Arkansas. We thought he was going to the NBA at that time. And listen, Boogie Flan clearly wasn't ready for the NBA, but you could argue at the time it hurt his draft stock to attempt to come back. Didn't, because he wasn't really an NBA draft prospect, but it has happened. Remember PJ Washington at Kentucky 3 or 4? It was probably 2019, I guess it was. Came back in the NCAA tournament, even though he knew he was going to be a lottery pick. A million years ago, because people keep referencing it with Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving did not have to come back for Duke in the 2011 season. He chose to. And so I just bring it up because I think we get in our head like, nobody's going to risk their draft stock. Caleb Wilson's draft stock is set. He's not going beyond probably the 4th pick in that draft in 2026 in June. It's not going to like if he comes back and he goes 2 for 11 in an opening round loss of an NCAA tournament game, that's not going to be impacted. I think what is a fair question is there risk for further injury? That I don't know. I'm not a hand expert. This is one thing I could see potentially him coming back from, right? I could, if it was a knee or whatever. I'm not even trying to wish ill will, but a hand is pretty isolated. It's not the type of thing that, like, if you injure it, you're more likely to re-injure it. It feels like the type of thing that you can rehab kind of traditionally and normally. So I don't think that it's going to impact his draft spot if he decides to come back. Let's go here. Give me A-Cuff, 20 points in accountability that I get. A-Cuff. Listen, we did this conversation. If you missed this morning's Aaron Torres pod, we reacted to the Joe Tipton report about how people aren't going to recruit freshmen anymore because of the Darren Peterson situation. And I used the example of Caleb Wilson, Darius A-Cuff, Cam Boozer, AJ DeBonsa. For all the criticism of AJ DeBonsa, he played 40 minutes the other night. The two Arizona guys, Braden Burries and Koa Pete, like this notion that these freshmen aren't giving it their all. And I think Caleb Wilson and Darius A-Cuff, to me, are actually probably the two best examples of dudes that I would love to have in my foxhole. Mike says, no sympathy for UNC cheat or UN cheat, I guess it would be. Kentucky has been without 3 starters most of the season. Take away 3 starters from any team. Yeah, listen, I think you can be pissed off about having injuries on your team without being, and I don't think, Mike, that you're wishing ill will upon Caleb Wilson. I will say, Caleb Wilson is the equivalent of like Jalen Lowe, of it changes everything that you thought you were going to be doing. And it certainly happens much later in the year. So listen, everybody is dealing with injuries. BYU, I keep saying they have 3 rotation guys that are out with season-ending injuries. Kentucky essentially has 3 guys that are out with season-ending injuries. We'll see on Jaden Quaintance. But it's just like, goodness gracious. This one, I think you could argue, and I truly believe this, Caleb Wilson means more to his team. There's a couple. Darius A-Cuff would be in that group. Otega Owe would be in that group. Cam Boozer would be in that group. But the number of guys who mean more to their team and everything that team does, I can't think of very many players that mean more to their specific teams than Caleb Wilson. Here's the other thing, too. He's kind of the emotional leader of that team and of that program as well. And so that's the other part. I mean, they were talking about it during, I think it was the Duke game. It might have been the Miami game, about how he leads the walkthroughs. He is the, mental backbone of the team. He's calling out stuff. This is it just sucks on a level that I cannot explain as a college basketball fan. I mean, we're not going to wish injuries on anybody, but amongst, like I said, the 5 guys who mean the most to their team, who are the most indispensable, I would say Caleb Wilson is probably at the top of that list. So Bot City is asking, sounds like you just joined the chat. The reports say 6 to 8 weeks. You do some quick math. Selection Sunday's 4 weeks from this coming Sunday. Puts you, he's not going to play before the NCAA tournament if he plays at all. We talked about it a minute ago. My thought on this is that basically it's pretty straightforward, is that if, I guess my thought would just be straightforward of like, it's a hand. So, and it's his non-shooting hand. So in theory, you could play with it maybe, but in theory, he also has to dribble the ball at some point. So if we see him, it'll be in the NCAA tournament, but I just don't know what is going on. Wesley says we have 0 front court depth. What the F are you talking about? Well, Jaren Stevenson doesn't play regularly. Listen, nobody has 9 7-footers just sitting on the bench. But I would argue that it is a moment for Jaren Stevenson to step up and go from playing 23 minutes to 34 minutes a game. It's a moment in time where Jonathan Powell, who is a wing, I know he's not a front court player because I'm sure North Carolina fans are going to have a field day with that, it's his opportunity to go from playing 15, 16 minutes a game to playing probably 25, 26 minutes a game. So it sucks. It just sucks on so many levels. Let's see here. By the way, somebody said, Tyson says we have the worst front court. We have the worst luck with upper body injuries this year. Yeah, Seth Trimble got hurt a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, and was out for basically 8 weeks. Carolina fans would know better than me, but it was basically all of December, most of January, just came back here within probably the last week or two. So a couple more questions, a couple more comments. We'll get out of here. Listen, I know I keep saying it, but it sucks. It's just whatever. Let's see here. This is back to Jaren Stevenson. If Stevenson can play to his potential and play like a jerk, this team could be scary when the tournament starts, says Brian Squires. Listen, I think there's something to that. Jaren Stevenson is the guy. For people who don't know the North Carolina depth chart, Jaron Stevenson, former 5-star from Chapel Hill in 2023. Am I correct there, North Carolina fans? He reclassified. It came down to Carolina and Alabama. Once he reclassified, Carolina didn't really have a spot for him. He goes to Alabama for 2 years. He plays okay. He has his moments, including against North Carolina in the Sweet 16 of the 2024 Sweet 16 in LA, a game that I was sort of at. I had to leave early to come back and do the show. I just bring it up because Jaron Stevenson has the talent. He's a former 5-star. And now the question is to the point that Brian Squires made, is Stevenson going to play to his potential? And is he going to play like a jerk? And a jerk is not a negative thing in this case. It is, are you going to play with a chip on your shoulder? Are you going to play mean? Because Caleb Wilson, more than anybody else, played with a chip on his shoulder in a positive way. So we'll get to one or two more questions, and then we'll get out of here. By the way, a couple quick things. Drop your final questions, final comments. Reminder, anyone who needs tickets, SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres gets you $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres gets you $20 off your first purchase. Also, Circa Sportsbook, Circa Casino, the brand new Circa Sportsbook at Mint, Kentucky Downs. If you live in Nashville, if you live in Bowling Green, producer Matt and I will be down there doing shows in the lead up to the NCAA tournament at the new Mint Kentucky Downs, the new Circa Sportsbook. Let us know. We want you there. We may have a special guest or two, but thank you to Circa Sportsbook, the new Circa Sportsbook at Mint Kentucky Downs. Let's get to one or two more questions. We'll get out of it. Tyson mentioned Zayden High, who's going to have to step up as well. Zayden High, another guy that really has not had an impact, a freshman, a sophomore, has had his moments, but really just a guy that hasn't had to play. I mean, he's going to have to probably play more because Jaron Stevenson is going to have to play more. Oh, just such a bummer. So bad. Florida says Michigan and Arizona look like a cut above everybody else. Listen, I would say this. I think they are a cut above everybody else. With respect to Duke, I think we saw earlier against Carolina of all teams that this is I think that we saw that this is against Carolina, that Duke has its flaws, especially in the backcourt. When they're not getting a million foul calls, they could be exposed. And so it's bad. Really quickly, here we go. We got some medical analysis. Says this is Sharkbait. Says sounds to me like a scapuloid fracture. They put a screw in there and it heals much quicker than it would. About a month recovery time with surgery, much longer without surgery. So I listen. If you could trust anybody on medical advice, it's Sharkbait 9922. I trust you, Sharkbait, and I hope you're right. I hope we're looking at a month. If it is a month, it looks like that would mean that he would be back in time to play in the NCAA tournament. If not, unfortunately, his North Carolina career might be over. All right, that's what I need you to do. Subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We just passed 70,000 subscribers this week. I'll tell you what, we do have our membership tier. We do membership mailbags and membership live chats every week. Next member to sign up. By the way, $4.99 a month. Try not to ask for too much. It does help. We're going to be on the road most of March, so every little bit helps. We have exclusives for members, $4.99 a month. All you got to do is click join. And I'll tell you what, next member to sign up, you get a box of Cauli Puffs courtesy of your boy Torres, the best snack going. So we appreciate everybody's support. You want to support the show, become a member. Again, $4.99 a month. I would never ask anybody if you don't have the money. Counter to that is same price as a beer at happy hour. $4.99 a month supports the show. We appreciate you, and we appreciate everybody tuning in. If you missed this morning's show, we talked about all sorts of stuff. Another coach calling out Bruce Pearl. We had, what else happened? We talked, Florida, Kentucky. We talked about a lot of different things, but just a bummer piece of news as North Carolina forward Caleb Wilson is out for the year. The good news is, again, Sharkbait 9922, our medical insider, says that a scaphold fracture, which if they put a screw in means he'll be back in a month. So that sounds good. By the way, somebody says that Seth Trimble came back 6 weeks. Well, but he was out about 6 weeks though, right? I think he was out about 6 weeks, came back about 6 weeks ago. But thank you to Sharkbait for the analysis on the medical injury. Let's see here. And yeah, we'll end on this. Tyson says that Hubert Davis outcoached John Shire on Saturday. There is no doubt about that. Also, no doubt, this stinks. Caleb Wilson out for the indefinite future. Hand injury. Sharkbait 22. Sharkbait 9922 says, give it about a month. I hope we see him again in a Carolina uniform. Appreciate everybody. We will be back on Sunday with a full reaction to